Hey everyone out there in podcast land, it's Justin with a quick disclaimer about this week's episode. While we're here to have a good time, we want to make it clear that we don't intend to make light of the tragic events surrounding the making of the film Rust. Our discussions are meant purely for entertainment purposes and aren't intended to minimize the seriousness of that situation. Our hearts do go out to all those affected, and we hope to provide a moment of escape without disrespecting the victims and the gravity of real-world events. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the show.
There are gray areas still to some of this. You know, like, for example, Alec Baldwin to this day swears up and down he never pulled a trigger, even though the FBI, looking at the gun, said that there's no way this gun could have gone off without a trigger pull.
Do we want to save this? You want to intro, go and save all that?
Oh, yeah, right.
No?
Joe's like, wrap it up, dude.
No, I'm just saying, this is good. Like, you started going, I was like, this is good.
Okay, all right. So, without further ado. Greetings and salutations, Filmarinos. Welcome to the Film Folklore Podcast. I am your MC, Jed Props, and I am joined by, let's go this way, the extraordinary Justin Sound.
Hey there.
Mr. Chris AD.
Hello.
Ms. Zoe Props.
Hello.
And Mr. Joe AD.
Bye.
All right, so today we are going to kind of do a little special this week where we're going to do a deep dive into the tragedy that is the movie production of this thing called Rust. If you are somehow not familiar with the movie, it hasn't been released yet at the time of this recording, but it's that thing where Alec Baldwin accidentally shot and killed the cinematographer, Halyna Hutchins, and I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly, and wounded the director, Joel Souza, on the film set of a low-budget Western being made in 2021. I know they recently came back and finished that movie, I think in a whole other state.
Oh, did they?
I believe so. Mm-hmm. And it's in the can, as they say. But it's a terrible tragedy. It's a very rare tragedy that happens in our industry. And, you know, Brandon Lee, the Crow, is a very infamous one. But really, it's only happened a handful of times over the years, remarkably. And we have a lot of safety protocols in place to protect the actor and the crew for a lot of these things. And so because we have two ADs and two prop people here, I thought it would be an interesting exploration for us to kind of get to the core of the mess, kind of explain how it's supposed to go in a normal world, and then all the insane things that had to go wrong. Because it wasn't just one thing that went wrong, it was several things that went wrong. So, that said, this show is a low-budget show. It was a Tier 1, and we're going to get into explaining what a Tier 1 is, and talk about low-budget filmmaking first. So, to get us going, open question to the group. Anyone can start. What do you know, remember, or think you know about the Rust incident?
I was under the understanding that the armorer and the prop master were pretty young.
Was one person.
Yeah, okay. One person.
Yeah.
And was young and rather inexperienced. And then, of course, I've heard rumors of, like, sabotage and things like that, which I don't really...
yeah.
I believe Baldwin himself suggested that at one point.
Yeah, which, like, I'm not really believing that. I'm chalking it up to being young, inexperienced, and in a pretty intimidating... I don't know. I've never been an armorer before.
I might have that wrong, too. I don't know if it was one person, but...
I can actually answer that. There was a prop master and the armorer, and then there was a prop assistant of some kind.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean,
probably
I heard,
a prop PA.
Yeah, I heard rumors of, like, maybe the armorer not getting on with the prop master. Why there were real bullets on set, I have no idea. That seems very wrong and incorrect and should not be a thing at all.
Yes, why live ammunition and film set.
Yeah. So that's my understanding, is that young and inexperienced. I don't know anything about the AD and what that person's experience was, and who that person was, the first AD or really any of the ADs on the set. But that's my.
I'm going to sort of refrain. I think I know somebody who indirectly knows that AD, so I'm going to refrain about talking about that as much as I can. But I think I've heard a lot of the similar stuff, and then just sort of that very murky, similar to the Brandon Lee thing, is like when a trauma happens like that, it can get really just like, what happened, but
Yeah.
similar to something like the Brandon Lee thing was like and if that's hazy too, but like a rehearsal kind of setting and setting up the shot. They weren't rolling, so it wasn't like running around, bang, bang, shoot 'em up, and somebody was accidentally shot or anything like that, but that the gun was inappropriately loaded somehow. I think Brandon Lee was a loose plug came out of the gun.
The Brandon Lee long short was that they were in 2 units, and the guns were being passed back and forth between the units in kind of a chaotic sense, and they weren't being properly cleaned.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, because a film load, we will say quarter half full, referring to the amount of gunpowder in it for the bang and the flash on the
quarter quietest half.
Yes,
and then
generally
full bang.
And something was stuck in one of the barrels, and that's still, even though there's not a projectile, there's still gunpowder, and that basically turned that scrap of whatever into a projectile, which then went to Brandon Lee.
Was enough of a projectile,
as I understand it.
Yeah. But this was what I heard about Rust, was that this was like a bullet. Like, if I'm not mistaken, it was a bullet, and they were setting up the shot, and it was something where Alec Baldwin was, it was like up on him or something like that, and it was kind of like say your prayers moment or something like that. And he was setting up to kind of like, where do you want the gun kind of thing, and I'll say this, and then when I say this line, I'll pull the trigger, and then it fired.
And it actually went off.
And it went off, and
the as I understand it from what I was able to research, the shot was him aiming at camera.
Straight into lens kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
So in a rehearsal, when you're not being, they're lining up the shot, they're getting all that stuff going. So you're not being as rigidly technical. So the actor's probably like, you want me to point here? Because generally you don't point right at the camera. You kind of cheat it to the left or the right.
Sure.
And another safety thing. But as the reports go, as he was going up to aim, he had a cross draw, which is going across your body to pull, and then he was pulling it out to camera, kind of like, so I'm going to pull the gun out like this, and bang, it goes off, apparently. Magically, as Baldwin to this day has said that he did not pull the trigger. The FBI report on the gun, it was a Colt
6-shooter or something.
Yeah, a classic 6-shooter, like it wouldn't be is that a 45? But they said that there's no way that gun could have gone off without pulling the trigger.
That's a wheel gun, baby.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, y'all are correct. Live ammo, real bullets, had somehow gotten into the mix. If you look at some of the pictures that I included on our notes, you can actually see the FBI photos of how insanely haphazardly the rounds were. Dummy film loads, no projectile, and live ammunition was all mixed together in buckets, on floors, and just all kinds of, it was just coming out of nooks and crannies on this truck. And you can look at it and see that this was not
I see.
a well organized or well handled thing. So, getting into the why was there live ammo even there, that's something that I think it's hard for us to get into, because we don't know all the circumstances. There's rumors, and I'm sure everybody heard that some members of the crew had gone
range
with her like the night before, shooting the prop guns with live ammo.
Those are the things I wanted to be careful too. Is like, because the rumors, or I heard they were like, hey, keep it down over there, guys, and they're grips and electrics, everybody taking turns like, bam, 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 like shooting like cans off of fences, like
oh my God,
right over there by the working trucks kind of thing or something. Like, I bet that's got a lot of bullshit in there.
Right. So we don't know that to be fact or anything like that. But let's see, maybe Chris, you want to speak a little to low budget world? Like, I know he just frowned when I said that. Like a
low budget
I don't
guy.
do that.
You're like, no, I'm good.
Full rate.
Yeah. So like, what are the trade-offs with low budget? The incentives? You don't have to obviously go into great detail, but why even have a low budget?
low budget really is just, you have a story that you want to tell, and there's not enough money to get everything done, so you do a low budget picture. And usually that means that maybe some unions are involved and some are not. But the one thing about a low budget is that it does have a feeling that this is freer. There's a lot more leeway. You are usually going to do your job and a little bit more of stuff that isn't necessarily your job. And sometimes things can kind of get combined. Departments can get combined, and various titles kind of get blurred. So some people absolutely love it because there's not as many constraints, there's not as many bureaucracies kind of involved, and there's not necessarily such a rigid hierarchy as there normally is on big budget things. But with that, and it's not all the time, but I mean, sometimes a tragedy like this reminds you that, it's good to have some of these systems in place, and it's good not to blur all the lines. And which is not to say that this is a normal thing that happens on low budget things. This is not normal at all. And that's really the bottom line for this entire thing was there's so many protocols that are in place that I just don't even understand at all still, even after I've heard some things. After I've heard facts and after I've heard all the rumors, I still don't understand how any of it happened. And most importantly, I just don't understand how there was live ammo on a film set. Doesn't make any sense at all. Should never have been there. I don't get it. And I actually thought that I had no idea that Baldwin might have suggested that this was sabotage, but that was my first thought, was that this sounds like somebody literally put a live round in there to get Baldwin to kill someone. I don't see any other way that it could have happened, given what it is that we normally do on film sets. And
just one of the 20 murky threads of the whole thing.
Pick your Reddit thread to deep dive on.
Yes, exactly.
That was something when I first heard about it. I actually kind of thought it was sort of like the Brandon Lee thing, where it was some kind of malfunctioning, cleaning, something of that nature, kind of. Because those guns, I mean, those are essentially the original, versions of the modern handguns, and this is supposed to be. We can kind of say real quick that this is supposed to be 1880s, and fun world trivia of gun world is the Civil War was also the introduction of the cartridge that became the bullet, and pre-Civil War is still black powder. And I've worked on some stuff that is dated as pre-Civil War, but DPs hate black powder effects because it messes with their shots if they're in tighter shots and things like that. So they're like, maybe we can just say they already had cartridges, So there's all these cheats and things that happen with it. But anyway, all that said, in our modern world of shooting with these antique replica kind of things, we're putting modern bullets into these guns, whether you're using a film, version of something, or you're using this gun for leisure activity in your personal life. Like, they are taking modern things. So we've adjusted them to fit that bill. So I say all that to say that this armor, the situation, everything, she had ammo you can go get at any store and put into this replica gun that's been modified for this thing. So that's already alarming of why, kind of to Chris's question, it shouldn't have never even been there. It was in her fanny pack. It was on a Rubbermaid cart. It was on the floor of the truck. I mean, it was insane. You just don't see something like that.
I mean, there's just zero reason in the living universe that a live round should be within a quarter mile.
Anywhere within that. And I couldn't find anything that was talking about how, if they were locking up guns at night or anything. This is another normal thing is that there's a safe on a prop trailer, and that is where ammo and guns are stored separately. You don't leave anything loaded, even with our movie rounds, things like that. Everything is cleaned and cleared at the end of the night. This is all normal. So just in this beginning kind of stuff, just the surface, kind of stuff that was made public, it is very alarming. You find out the girl in question, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, she is the daughter of a famous gunslinger, you could say, this guy Thel Reed, and he's done some big movies. He helped like Russell Crowe, 3:10 to Yuma. He did Brad Pitt for something.
Jesse James or something.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, he's kind of like for a hot minute, for several years, he was the guy that you went to when you needed to get an actor to be twirling and getting fancy with their guns and like Western style stuff.
And who is his daughter or
the armor?
The armor, not okay.
So, this is pure speculation on my part, but she probably was kind of getting some like, hey, Thel Reed's my dad, kind of thing, or maybe he even helped her get her first job. This is her second job ever, as far as like anything I could tell. And apparently the show that she had done before this one, there were issues. Nicolas Cage walked off set because the gun went off before it should have, or anything like that. And there's a lot of just kind of safety stuff you get into with her and everything. And
if you get Nick Cage to walk off set,
and
bro, you've done something.
Which is, that's another good thing to bring up. Nicolas Cage is a gun guy. Val Kilmer was a gun guy. Right. Yeah. Alec Baldwin is not a gun guy. Like, yeah, he's had guns on shows before and everything like that, but I can't think of a single movie where Alec Baldwin was like guns a-blazing, guns akimbo, kind of thing.
He shot that poor cook in Hunt for Red October.
Oh God, you're right, he did.
He did.
That
poor KGB cook who was gonna sabotage the world.
Wasn't he the first incarnation of Jack Ryan? Isn't that?
I think so.
Yeah, before 14 other Jack Ryans came around.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I don't want to, because there's still kind of legal stuff pressing and everything. I actually feel really bad for Hannah because she had no business doing that job. I think is kind of something that a lot of people would agree with. But also, you got to kind of put a little bit of a shoulder of blame on the producers who do the hiring, because why'd you hire this girl with no experience and all this thing, so there's culpability that goes well beyond what kind of was in the news, talking about the first AD, talking about the armor being the kind of focal points of it, but there's definitely a lot of culpability to go around, and that's something that's really strange in the low budget world, because a lot of those shows are like little engine that could shows. There's a lot of incentives in place that are to help protect the crew from getting abused on these little shows. So, like, for example, triple overtime exists on low budget. I've only gotten to experience that once. It's pretty insane. But those things are there so that you don't over abuse the crew and everything. But apparently what was going on in this particular show is they had all kinds of other issues going on. So the camera department had apparently walked off set after complaining for multiple things ahead of it. And this is right before the incident. This is maybe the day before. So 6 camera department people, union people, leave. A non-union group of camera people replace them. This is the day of the shooting. So
oh my God.
I think you already have some confusion and weird, going on.
Yeah. It's a hell of a first day.
Right?
Well, that's like, so one thing that that I was thinking about, I feel like we should talk about what the normal protocols are and normally what, we would do.
Yeah, for sure. And so, Chris, if you want to kind of start off with that, I had us starting with the call sheet itself, what the ADs put onto the call sheet. Well, what is the call sheet? We should probably say what that is too. But in preparation for the day of the firearm, same thing for a stunt, same thing for a special effect, but that's the initial kind of heads up to the general crew, right?
Yeah. There's all kinds of safety bulletins that you put on in firearms and gunfire, and all that is certainly one of them. So that safety bulletin will get put on.
And you'll get memos with the call sheet too. Firearms and guns and heat and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, all the stuff and weather and all of the dangerous conditions that might exist, on a film set that day. That all gets put on the call sheet, and all that stuff. So the call sheet is basically just the day's events, what scenes you're shooting. It has all the information that you need on there. What actors are in that, what day in the script it's supposed to be.
The call sheet is the thing that on set somebody goes, "What's happening today?" And you could say, "It's on the call sheet." Like that could literally be. Which I know that's like you chuckle as like you've heard ADs really
a million times. Yeah.
Yeah,
but it is the Bible.
Yeah.
For the day.
For the day, and it's presumably a film professional in any department can get presented a call sheet, and then they will know what you're doing that day and what they will need to do.
All the who's and the what's and the where's and the when's and the why's.
And all the stuff, and it goes through each department of what's expected for each scene during the day.
It's definitely more useful for some departments versus others. Like,
total. Sure.
Yeah, like G&E isn't going to look at it near as much as, say, props and costumes would. But for any ADs out there listening, including the two in the room, I'm a huge fan of Easter eggs in call sheets.
Oh, are you?
Oh, I love it.
Oh, okay.
Love it.
All right, I'll be sure.
Shout out James Rock.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm looking forward to that.
James Rock.
Yeah, I know. I get to work with him soon. Yeah. But yeah, the call sheet is the Bible. That's a good way of putting it. It's everything that is for the day. The one mystery that might still exist, which a lot of times the ADs don't even get clued into, is what the actual shot list is and what the sometimes that's a well-kept guarded secret between the DP and the director and no one else.
Yes.
Sometimes they keep that secret between each other.
Right.
Oh, shiver.
So with the call sheet, having safety-related notices on there for the day that you're going to be shooting. So what happens the day of when we're coming in?
You're going to have safety meetings up the wazoo, and especially on a show like this, you better be having them every single day. You better be having them. I mean, it's not just you never let.
You have horses, you have stunts.
Horses, you have stunts, you're out in the desert, you have snakes, you have animals, you have weather. Yep. You have all those things. And I was just scanning, I think that you put some of the safety notes on here.
I did.
And it seems like he was doing the daily reminder stuff. And again, I want to be careful because I don't know, it seems like he had a safety meeting and I don't know. I mean, I did hear that there were pretty solid around the world kind of complaints that they weren't happening enough or they weren't informative enough. But the first AD is going to get to a set, and especially if there's weapons, especially. You hold a safety meeting when you get to work if you're on stage. And that fire exit's over there. Our fire lane is clear. ADs and PAs, when you walk it, is just as rudimentary as shooting on a stage.
All the department heads and anyone else that wants to listen are there.
And and every day you walk in, and one of those, either your key PA or your ADs or yourself, or locations, team effort, you're walking the fire lane. You're making sure you're thinking about if right now us sitting in this room, if the lights turned off, you're thinking about like how you wouldn't trip and fall and hurt yourself if the lights went off and the fire alarm went off and we had to exit the building. And that's something you need to walk people through. And that is a legal measure. I mean, safety first, safety always. But the legality of that is those words better come out of your mouth. And I see in these notes here too is like, sometimes second is filming the first AD. I remember Eric Hayes. We got to get him in every episode. We were on the Best of Me thing, and we were working on the train tracks, and it was right after the. Speaking of trauma,
Nikki Spanks.
It was after the, and it was after Sarah Jones.
Yeah.
Sarah Jones.
There
was the thing, and she'd gotten hit by the train or killed, and he was going on and on about the train safety and stuff, and blah blah blah. So. You're doing that no matter what, all the time. Hold a safety meeting every 20 minutes. It's welcome. It should happen. Something like this too. It sounds like they're doing a very complex shot. So it's like, if you do a safety meeting for this shot, and if it's necessary to do it for the next setup, everybody shut the fuck up and get over here and listen to me, and I will prattle on for 30 minutes if I want to, if that's what's necessary to get that information out. And it sounds like there were complaints, and then there were a lot of failure. And was that kind of the reason some of the camera people walked too?
So there was a few previous. Apparently, there was a gun incident that happened days before where a gun had gone off on set.
Yeah.
Apparently, she used a full load in a gun around horses. You're never supposed to do more than quarter because that's considered animal cruelty.
Let's start there.
So, but again, she probably didn't even know any of that. And that's again where it's like, I hate to get defensive of her because she made a lot of mistakes that I think are pretty apparent, but she should never have been hired to do that job. I mean, especially Westerns, like any kind of Western or like 19th century period thing I've ever done, the people that come in on those things are like seasoned veteran people. Like the horse animal wrangler is the guy that's been doing it for 30 years kind of thing.
Came down from Montana.
Right.
From his ranch.
Exactly.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like, she's the daughter of this gunslinging guy who's been around the block. So it sounds like she probably does know a lot about weaponry and guns, but maybe not how we do it in film.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like,
The safety protocols and all that stuff.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. You can shoot a gun all day and know about all the tricks and the thing that goes in and where you I don't know any.
Right.
But no, yeah.
Like the lime and the coconut, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and kind of getting to after our safety meetings, which this is something we all get to see that people watching movies don't know. Stunts, explosions, complicated gunfights, things like that. The lead up before we actually shoot them is possibly the most boring thing you can do on a film set, because
most protracted process. Yeah,
because you want to make sure you get it right. You want to make sure that everything's in place, and you want to triple check all your things. All your wires, all your whatevers. And so, hey, once this building blows, it's the only chance we get. You can't put the building back together. So, but the lead up to it.
You could. It'd take you a while.
Well, yeah, it'd take you a while. You just get some duct tape and, butyl. Butyl would be what we would use. Yeah. Lots of butyl. But yeah, it's a very boring thing. And stunts, I get sleepy on stunt days because there's so much like angles and action and rehearsal to it, but once you get to see the final cut, as an audience member, you're like, oh, that was awesome. But yeah, they don't have to sit through all the pain of what we do. So getting into the rehearsal, speaking of, so normally when let's put the scenario, kind of what the scenario is. You have one actor, one gun, and he is pointing the gun in the direction of camera, the general direction of camera. We typically will cheat to one side of camera, but for the magic of filmmaking, it still looks like he's pointing at camera. So that's another safety thing we typically do. But when you're ready to rehearse, what would be the normal thing for how are you calling people in as ADs? How are you calling people in, and how are you calling for, say, the weapon or what's needed?
Take it away, Chris.
You got this.
Nice pass, Joe.
Yeah, you go.
I mean,
it's AD material right here. I'm telling you, seasoned pro.
That was really nice pass in the book. But I mean, you go to the props department in the armor, assuming that it's a big budget show and there's lots of gunfire and stuff like that. You'll have an armor. And you say, okay, guys, the scene's up. It's time to check the weapons. And so what that means is that you'll actually check that these weapons do not have live rounds in them at all.
Yeah.
And that everything that is involved in going in the gun is safe. And anybody can come and see and check this out and watch. Usually who it is the AD themselves, usually the first AD. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're super busy and it'll be the second. The camera operators, because oftentimes a gun is pointed directly at a camera operator. Mm-hmm. And then the actors themselves, if they are interested.
Stunts and key grip often.
Yeah.
And then everybody's.
And then really anyone who wants to see it can come see these things.
And the more complex it is too, in your experience, and then I think I've even seen you, Jed. Mm-hmm. I mean, oftentimes it's like if there's a rifle and there's two pistols and there's some kind of Gatling gun or something, we're going to do full on presentations of each of those things involved.
Yep.
This is how this works. This is what's going on. And then I think in the presentation too, it's like leading, and then all the way leading up to it too. It's like props as you guys are handing the guns off to the actors or anything. If it's a 6-shooter, you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, firing blankly into the earth, and going, do you see? And then
that's a dry fire.
Dry fire, and then we're shown a lot of times too is like the flashlight in the barrel, so the clip is out, and so we're visually looking to see if there's light coming through that barrel to make sure there's whether it's plugged or not.
Yep.
And that's presented to everybody. And
yeah, we won't get into plug block barrels and all that. That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah,
but yeah, absolutely. And basically, for me, bringing the weapon, I have it safely in my hands, ready to show anybody that wants to look. I have my flashlight ready. The gun is already open, so you can go through the mechanics. I remember standing behind the first AD who's barking out at stuff, and then into the radio they're barking like, I thought I asked for props to bring the gun. I'm like, right behind you. And then he turns around and he's like he has to kind of fess up to the fact he was just barking for me and I'm behind him. But then
he'd love to do that. I
know.
Well, then he delivers the classic line, "Why don't you be closer next time?"
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I hate that line.
I think what
I use it all the time.
I'm going to start getting, I'm going to just put my chin on their shoulder and just very, very slowly just take a big...
Next time we're together, you should do that.
And then I'll go, oh, I missed your smell.
I'm calling HR right now.
Yeah. So, there's no one in that office.
Yeah. That's not really an office. It's actually just a cardboard box. But...
This is right. Yeah. Okay. How's this? That good? Yeah. There we go. Okay. Whenever I'm ready. Okay. Here we go. Hey everybody, it's Joe. I wanted to tell you about an awesome deal from SoundHard. Whether you are a film or television professional, a podcaster, content creator, musician, studio engineer, or even just a guy like me that doesn't know where to begin, SoundHard offers a wide range of equipment to handle any size production or budget with expert advice available from an experienced team that works in the field. And now SoundHard is offering new customers 25% off your first rental. Just enter promo code FILMFOLK25, that's FILMFOLK 25, no spaces, at checkout. Terms apply. Go to soundhard.com for details.
Then the first person you show is the first AD. That's the first person that you clear the gun with. And then from there, it's open for the crew to see. And then the last person you're showing is the actor that you're going to be handing it to. And I'm fine showing it to the whole crew. I will keep them nameless, but there's a certain camera assistant that we all know that obnoxiously asks for their own weapons clearing after I've already shown it twice, and they are nowhere near camera. They are never near the shot and don't really technically need to see it. But anyway, but I'll show it again. It's fine. I just cleared it with like 15 people, but that's fine. So it gets annoying for sure, but we also, in the name of safety, keep doing it. And then the last lease, you get to the actor and you clear it with the actor, and then you are announcing that the weapons, this is when you're ready to shoot. But I should, before I say that, for the rehearsal, as you're handing it off, you're announcing it's a cold weapon. The gun is empty. There's nothing in the weapon. You might put dummy rounds in there if it is for the purpose that maybe in the shot they're supposed to empty the gun to some degree, so you want them to be able to rehearse that. So you would have these dummy rounds that are just nothing. They're just pieces of metal. And then when you are ready to go, it's the same thing. You're there with the actor. You're announcing that the weapon is going hot. You're announcing how many loads you're putting in. So let's say it's weapons going hot, 4 loads, half loads, and then you'll hear a chorus of repetition all around you with the ADs and the PAs kind of barking it out everywhere so everyone hears. And then you're handing it off to the actor to do the scene.
And then also we're handing out ear protection.
Oh yeah,
ear protection.
Yep.
Protection and eye protection for whoever wants it on the crew.
Yep.
While all this is happening.
Glad you said that. Eyes and ears. And then in some cases, even a face shield, depending on the situation for the camera operator, for other things. But then, as soon as they say cut, you got to be Johnny on the spot to grab that gun as quick as possible from the actor. Not that you don't, it's not a lack of trust of the actor. It's just, again, in the name of safety.
Well,
don't, yeah. You don't want an actor.
We'll go
doing
with safety.
There's actually,
but yeah.
there's actually a story.
All-encompassing term.
Someone will have to go look this up, but there was a soap opera actor that was left with a gun in his hand after they weren't shooting, and apparently it still had a load in it. And he jokingly put it up to his temple, and even though there wasn't a projectile, because of the proximity to his head, it was enough pressure from the emission of the gunpowder in the gun to break his temple of his head, and I believe he had internal bleeding and died, if I'm not mistaken.
Darwin Award winner.
Yeah, that is very Darwin.
People like to goof. I get it.
Yeah.
Goofing is fun.
Yeah, that is true.
And playing, with toys is fun, but also, I don't know. Well, a gun. Whether I can know full well that it doesn't have bullets in it, and I'm the one who showed it and cleared it. It's still just like I don't want that thing pointed at me.
Yeah.
I don't want that thing.
It's heavy. It's like it's a death machine.
And that's like the thing about it too. So everybody that is not that doesn't know Jed and Zoe here, they're hilarious people. They're very funny, but like. That's the kind of the one thing that like all the people are just very serious about are the weapons, because they're scary and they can literally kill you. And so that's another thing that like I just don't understand at all about the Rust incident, is that like I just don't like, it's so serious. It's the most serious thing on set. Usually is when you're handling and dealing with the weapon.
Yeah, and we treat them like the last show I'm doing is a big gun heavy show. Lots of rifles. They're all replicas. Like they can't even have bullets or anything in them. And we always keep these one locked up with someone always with them.
Yep.
That's and it gets a little boring and a little repetitive, but it's like,
Imperial Guard.
Great.
Yeah. Next to your
This is the job. Guarding
nobody gets shot.
Big gun. Yeah. Nobody gets shot.
For starters, nobody gets shot.
Yeah. But it's also like a thing, like since Rust, like I haven't worked on anything that's actually had, I don't even think we've done any quarter loads, half loads. I think it's all been CGI muzzle flashes.
Yep.
Since Rust
Airsoft.
for me.
And
Airsoft. Airsoft.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Since Rust, anytime there has been any gun in the script or on set, it's Rust. Rust is mentioned.
Yeah.
Rust is mentioned.
People got very nervous after the incident, and so you could feel it on other shows that you were on at the time. That
Big time.
And for example, that very talented camera person, I'll keep their name out of it, but they were part of the people that really wanted to like over push the safety thing. And it's like, I think for prop people, the weapons armory world, we all kind of took it a little personal, where it's like, hey, I wasn't on Rust. I still do my job. And I'm going to show you guys, everything's going to happen, but either A, calm down, or please come for the first time I show it, not the fourth time. Anywho's.
It's to prove a point.
Yeah, 100% Chris. Chris just guessed who it was.
For those of you, out in Radio Land, I just guessed who it was. And
Got it.
Boy, it tracks.
Yeah, it tracks well.
Okay.
I thought about dropping a clue, and I'm like, no, it'd be too obvious. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so Zoe and Chris both made very good points. Another thing worth bringing up is when the weapons are not locked away, when we have them at set and they're not locked away, say in a cart that is a lockable cart, and maybe you have them on top of the cart ready to use or whatever, someone is constantly there with them. It's sometimes referred to as a fire watch. Well, I guess that's more when we go to lunch, but someone is constantly there with them. They're never unattended at any point. So if they're not locked away, they're not unattended. You might have the very boring babysitting job. We've all been there, but you also get paid at the end of the day. That's why I have to remind myself.
Give me the babysitting job. That's great.
Oh,
cool.
The other fun thing,
I get to sit with this gun that doesn't even work.
Yeah. The other thing that's fun.
Great.
The other thing that's fun is when someone asks you for something, you go, I would, but I can't leave the
I
cart.
can't do it. Safety. I'm being like really.
Oh, that looks heavy too.
If you go by Crafty, grab me something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, coffee. Give me a coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other thing that Chris had mentioned too, that's definitely worth bringing up is the VFX world. It is steadily catching up. And I think most of the gun people and everything welcome the VFX. I don't think anyone's like hell bent on like, no, it needs to be, loads instead. But I do think that I think most people would agree that VFX isn't quite there as far as the look. Like it's still.
You're talking about like recoil in the hand.
Right. You don't get the recoil, which Justin mentioned the airsofts. That's a way that we've learned to to recreate a recoil effect for an actor so that they don't do like spaghetti noodle arm when they're firing. But you're still talking about a VFX effect for the muzzle flash. And it looks good. It's just not quite there. And then the main reason I wanted to put emphasis on it is that it's also very expensive, VFX. So again, you get back to low budget world. They typically don't have money for all this VFX stuff. So that goes back to, again, now you're back to using film loads again. So getting into our two core players, Dave Halls was the first AD on it. And I had found a thing from the DGA that said that he wasn't in the DGA. Maybe this was not a DGA show.
I guess probably wasn't a DGA show.
Yeah. I've heard mixed things online about his character and his apparently there were some complaints from some past shows, but nothing really, also a lot of people came to his defense. So it's hard to say, from our perspective about the guy himself. But there's also a little bit of confusion when it comes to what happened the moments leading into the rehearsal. There are mixed reports about, I believe they'd come back from lunch and they were going into rehearsal. And I believe...
a very groggy time period of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
Did they serve barbecue that day? Because that's never a good idea, especially if it's hot.
Yeah.
It was a very sluggish second half of the day.
Yeah.
And then AD curses the whole day when they're like, hey, we were making really great time today. Then barbecue lunch happens.
Lasagna and barbecue.
The whole crew has the itis.
Yep.
So most reports have Mr. Halls grabbing the gun from the cart and taking it in himself, declaring it a cold weapon, handing it off to Baldwin.
Now that I don't...
But there's also other versions where Hannah was at the cart. There's other versions where she wasn't at the cart, and that's why he grabbed the gun off. There's versions where she handed the gun to Halls, who took it in, which is still wrong. So in the midst of how the gun enters into this, it was a church, was the set. That's, no matter which version you look at or what you believe, it's all wrong. Like, if the armor's not there, it's wrong. If the armor's handing off a gun to the first AD to give to the actor, it's wrong. Yeah. If the first AD is grabbing a gun off of a cart and running it in themselves, that's wrong. So,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking is why isn't the armorer or the props person handing off this gun? Why is it the first AD handed this actor the gun?
If that happened, that should not have happened. Yeah. Not have happened.
Right.
I mean, that's just if that's what happened.
So then you get into not knowing exactly what the truth is there, because that's another thing. Accounts kind of changed once some court stuff started happening. So some stories varied a little bit, but in any of the scenarios that are all wrong, you also get into this mysterious. So how did the gun? What state was this gun in when it arrived to set and was handed to Baldwin, who I go back to is not a gun guy. Now, you could make the argument that he should have insisted on clear this weapon for me before and I'm sure he will the rest of his life. Excuse me, but he's just not that type of actor. He doesn't think like that. Just in my experience with actors in general, like you can tell who your seasoned veteran gun people are and who they are.
I'm not going to say that I'm some huge Alec Baldwin fan or that I'm coming to his defense, but
the getaway, right?
But I kind of don't blame the dude. He was handed a gun.
Yeah.
Actors are never around for the safety meeting. When have you ever seen an actor for a safety meeting? Almost never.
Unless you've required the ADs have been like, no.
Yeah. Or we're in the middle of one and an actor's coming up or whatever. But actors aren't really a part of that. They're there to act. And everyone else around them is supposed to do all the safety,
Yeah.
all the safety fun stuff. Not saying that they shouldn't be safe or shouldn't be asking these questions or blah, 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 but
99% of the time, that's the way that
yeah, I don't know. I think about it. If I was Alec Baldwin and was handed a gun, point it here, I probably wouldn't have thought twice about it.
I wouldn't have
if
thought
I
twice. If I was
probably
an actor,
wouldn't
I
have.
wouldn't have thought twice about it.
Those little moments you do, just a little muscle move.
Yeah.
Being the ultimate thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
Like you go to scratch your eyebrow.
Yeah.
And whoops.
Boom.
Like, yeah.
And it kind of is what it is.
I'm with you there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree.
Has anybody ever accidentally discharged a firearm?
No.
Nope.
Okay. It's very easy. I've done it.
No, but I was always taught though, like you don't you keep your finger out and you don't put your finger towards the trigger unless your ass
we're
is
taught to
ready.
keep our. It's same thing with military and police and everything.
Yeah.
But we're taught to keep our finger basically flat on the side of the weapon, away from the trigger guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I personally didn't know until I went out independently to like shoot guns. I never grew up around guns, nothing like that. And I should be comfortable around guns. I should know, how to handle a weapon. That was years ago when I found that. I was like, oh, okay, got it. Yeah. Don't put your finger on the trigger. Sure, that makes sense. But.
I mean, in the South, we're just born knowing about guns. Am I right? I mean, that's just.
I've shot 2 people today. They didn't deserve it.
For the record, they did not deserve it. Yeah. Don't even know why I did it. Yeah. Just cause.
I am.
But Justin, how easy is it? So have you've done it?
I have. Yeah.
Was it on a gun range or just standing there?
No. It was in a house. And
oh my God.
Yeah, I was with a friend, a friend's mom, and we were cleaning out the house because the friend had left town. Let's just say.
Okay.
And so we were cleaning the house, and I found this shotgun, and so I picked it up, and I'm holding it. Hand wasn't even near the trigger.
Oh boy!
And I sat it down on my lap, and it goes off.
Wow.
The trigger had just barely touched my thigh.
With the I mean, there's a trigger guard and everything.
Oh yeah.
But it was just kind of resting sideways.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I guess, some skin came up into the guard, and just that much of a tap. Yeah.
Wow.
Just went off. Blew a hole in the house.
Oops.
Sure did.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, luckily nobody was hurt.
But everybody said
I didn't know. I don't know.
It did what it
luckily
it
I
did its
did know
job.
not to point it at anything or anyone
Sure.
while I was messing with it. But
Yeah.
Sure, that's the thing, because I hear that story, and I feel like I've heard that story before. And in my head, if I'm holding a gun and I put it down too forcefully or something like that, it's going to go off. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you're conscious about how you're holding it.
Yeah, if I'm not very, 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 very absolutely sure that gun is completely empty, then no, I'm not,
Which again, this gun should have entered set open, where the drum that holds the 6 rounds, in a revolver, that it is open, swung open, and it's showing that it's empty.
And I mean, leave it open.
Easiest gun to clear, by the way.
Sure.
It was a revolver?
Yeah, it's
this gun?
like an old 6-shooter, like a Western. When you what?
It's just fun. Yeah, that's very easy to just
Oh.
look at.
Right. So it should have entered set open. I mean, that's another thing that and we want to be trusting. I think that's another thing that was not a situation where you have seasoned professionals doing these things. You're in low budget world. And another thing, I think we might have mentioned this when we were talking on the phone, but this was happening at a time that we were really busy coming out of our COVID shutdown world. And so when things are very busy in the industry, it's even harder to get good workers on low budget, because anyone that's on the fence of that is going to probably get scooped up by something bigger, which is better pay.
Yeah.
So that's probably another reason that led to some of the people in the positions on a show like this. I mean, again, you get back to the hiring, once again. But anyway, I have some things on here. That is the FBI stuff made public that's showing some of the text exchanges. And I'm not going to knock David Halls for this, because he's certainly not the only first AD I've heard this kind of language from, but I cringe when I hear a lot of these things. Morning, AD team of awesome.
I hate them already.
Yeah, right. Let's do a safety meeting this morning since we have stunts and we move. Let's have a rockin' day. So there's other text messages to David that are clearly showing that they're not having the daily safety meetings and that producers or the director are requesting them. And a show like this probably, for a first AD, that is an incredibly difficult job on any show. And keeping pace with your schedule, making your day, getting all your shots in, all of that. You got a million things on your plate in your head. And this guy might have had all the best intentions. I mean, certainly in his text messages, sounds like he's quite the go-getter. But it's, probably in that moment he was, come back from lunch and it's just like, oh my God, let's just get this going, kind of thing. Maybe he did rush in with a gun or something. But it doesn't mean you can't skip the protocol.
Can't. Well, but it's such an unfortunate confluence of shit all happening at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it is a thing where, like, this sounds like the Wild West, no pun intended,
Mm-hmm.
but, like, you're right. Everybody good was probably gobbled up. This person was very new. But, like, it is just the Wild West, man. It just sounded like every single safety protocol that is just, like, that is rigid. It's the most rigid thing on a film set.
It needs to be 100%. Was not 100%.
Was just ignored. It's not even like not 100%, but I mean not even close to the standard.
Right.
Which is why I just none of it makes sense. The whole thing still doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's it. So have they come to some kind of conclusion on this whole thing?
Apparently Ms. Gutierrez-Reed is still going through her legal stuff. I believe charges were dropped against Mr. Baldwin. One of the footnotes I was going to bring up, but I'll go ahead and bring it up now. When they decided that they were going to finish this movie, the widower of, the DP, he was named executive producer on the show. And then he is apparently a part of finishing the show. That all is very strange. Like,
super weird.
That is super weird.
I would have been like, done with this industry.
No grass.
Was he in film prior,
Not
or this
from
is
what
the
I
kind of
could
thing
tell.
where this happened? Hey man, we'll throw you a producer credit and throw you some cash so that we can finish this or whatever, kind of thing.
This is all speculation on my end, but like maybe it was a situation where like, hey, in lieu of suing us, we'll give you 15% of any profits that this.
That's what I was
film
thinking.
makes.
Yeah.
And then also,
Yeah.
and then maybe he genuinely was just kind of like in memory of his wife.
Right.
Realized
maybe-
finishing
maybe-
that was
Yeah, maybe
she
and
wanted.
maybe she was proud of it, and it's in her memory that he's doing this.
Yeah, it could certainly
Right.
go. Yeah, I don't fault the guy for.
very tough to be involved in
It-
that.
It's certainly an abnormal
Yeah.
situation. I'm kind of with Chris that maybe they were like, hey, look, we got to be straight with you. We don't have money, but if we finish this movie, we might have some money. So why don't we get you on, give you a little percentage, set up a trust fund for your kid, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
That kind of makes sense because trying to wrap your head around it in a different way, it makes the husband look worse. So you kind of want it to be more of this nature.
Yeah,
Very odd move, though. I don't know if I've ever seen something like that.
No, I mean, the bad publicity is, it's not great, but I imagine people are going to go see this film because of it, So there's, it's not a stupid move. It's probably going to make a ton of money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Would I have ever seen Rust before? No. Will I
Will I now?
Will I watch it out of curiosity? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, shamefully.
Yeah.
Just make sure you're in the theater, so when that church scene comes up, you go, "Oh, this is it! Hey, this is the scene!" And then you're the obnoxious person in the theater.
It's creepy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, people will love that. That'll be really couth of me. I'm a real classy broad.
I need to.
Trigger warning. This is the boom boom. This is the bang bang. This is it. Right, boom boom bang bang.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Special place.
Cut that out. All of that, please. Thank you so much.
Keep it in.
Thank you so much.
So I think we've kind of like covered, Hannah enough. I mean, I left out Johnny Ringo, Tombstone. That was another one her dad had done. Michael Biehn was trained by Thel Reed. I left that one out. So getting past them and kind of like trying to figure out a way to kind of wrap this up, because of the mixed stories, because of a lot of weird he said, she said sort of situations, it's hard to kind of get to the bottom of what exactly happened. But we do know enough to know that not just one thing went wrong, but multiple things went wrong. And it takes multiple things going wrong to have a tragedy of this level happen. And that's why we have all these safety protocols in place. And it's a very unfortunate thing. We had mentioned the Sarah Jones, thank you, which was another very avoidable thing. We don't have to get into all that, but
that's a whole other episode.
Yeah, the long short is that camera was set up on a train track at a train bridge, and there was a live train track, and a train came, and as everyone's scrambling to get off, she unfortunately was not able to and passed. And then those people have been prosecuted pretty fully to the law, by the way, the producers and all that.
I think the producer, spouse producers both went to, or one said, "Don't take my wife, I'll go to jail," or something. I think
something of that nature, because that was gross negligence.
Yeah. Shout out Eric Hayes. He knew the first AD.
Oh,
did he?
Oh, good.
Yes, he did.
And let's see, that's 3 Eric Hayes. Okay, we're good.
Yep.
30 Eric.
Should we actually tell him that we're doing this, or just let him organically find it?
He'll find it.
Yeah, he'll find it.
Yep. Yep. Uncle Lee. Hey, love you. We're all available.
Yeah, we're all very available. So before we close this out, final thoughts, and then I have some random trivia that I was able to find online also about this movie. But does anyone have anything final to say as far as like the Russ incident?
Sorry to the victims. It just sucks.
Yes.
And the families and everything. That's just it. Period at the end of the sentence is this sucks. And it was a confluence of 25 things that all plinkoed into a terrible, terrible tragedy. Yeah. And, who knows if we'll ever know what actually happened, but I think heart goes out to them. Big time.
Anyone else? I thought it was well said.
That was well said.
It was very well said. I don't want to say anything anymore.
I feel like I'm fucking it up.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm fucking it up right now.
You are. You're swearing a lot.
I know.
Damn it.
Shit.
It's fucked up.
Not me.
Yeah.
Fuck. I don't say swear words.
Yeah.
I'm a classy
Because I'm a
broad.
classy broad.
I ain't saying them swear words.
Yeah. I always thought it was weird that Zoe just says the word swear in place of. She just goes, swear!
I do. Yeah.
What the
Swear.
Yeah.
Swear to G.
Insert swear word here. So here's some random trivia I had found while looking up a lot of this stuff. So there was a spider bite incident on set. This is weeks after the shooting incident. The lamp operator and pipe rigger, his name was Jason Miller, was bitten in the arm by a brown recluse spider, which sucks. We have
Nasty.
those here. Yeah. While closing the set. Miller suffered necrosis and sepsis. He was hospitalized and underwent multiple surgeries to avoid amputation of his arm.
Oh, his arm. I was going to say, do you know, I had a friend in high school that got bit on the calf.
Ooh.
And speaking of terrible interviews, he was interviewed. The news came to our house. This is in Minnesota. And the bite had become so, and speaking of shotguns, it looked like he'd been shot in the meat of his calf by a shotgun. By the necrosis that had happened, and not to get too gross, but it came out like a plug of flesh from his calf, and he still got it too.
Oh,
that was the
He's
first.
got a caved-in calf.
It's like his calf looks like it's. There's like, and it's like now it's shrunk down a lot more, so it's kind of this like It is kind of like a wine cork sized. Looks like somebody had like a little like plug.
That was
Yeah.
from when you bit him on the calf.
That was yes. I became
Sick
irate.
son of a bitch.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am a brown recluse. So,
I know.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
So Russ just cursed all
Yes.
together.
news.
Just a cursed,
Yeah.
horrible cursed
Cursed production. Yeah.
So the place that they were filming at was the Bonanza Creek Movie Ranch in New Mexico, where numerous westerns have been filmed in the past, including The Man from Laramie in 1955, The Legend of the Lone Ranger in 1981, Silverado classic in 1985, 310 to Yuma, the 2007 one, and The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, 2018.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Interestingly, the show Bonanza was not filmed at this place. The city that it's named for, Bonanza City, is now a ghost town. And I just thought this was kind of funny. The town was built in 1880, and it was abandoned pretty much by 1890. So the town lasted 10 years.
The town sucked.
I was like, this town fucking sucks.
This town sucked. Was it on a burial ground? I don't know if I can say the word.
Like,
Like the full,
Bonanza,
like
what kind of clown name is that?
A sacred burial
This is
ground.
how
This
weird.
town's bonanzas. I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah, ghost town's a thing you hear all the time, but not a 10-year like start and done. And
Yeah, easy come, easy
apparently,
go.
1884 is where it started to go south. So the first 3 years must have been pretty all right.
Yeah.
It was the 7 years after that sucked. Anyway, R.I.P. to Bonanza City. Thanks, everybody. We made it through. That was a tough one. Thank God we're not going to do this on a normal basis. But I hope it was educational for everybody listening. And if you want to challenge things we said, because, I'm sure this is a fact-checking episode, you can email us at the filmfolklorepodcast@gmail.com. You can leave questions, thoughts, comments, whatever you want. That's where you do it. And then also, now that we're starting to get some shows out, please like us, give us a nice review. We love 5 stars. And don't forget to subscribe. And thanks, everybody. And who wants to take this out?
Bye.
Toodles.
All right.
Whew.